Today we're talking about what happened to gaming over the years. And, I guess imagine if you were to jump into a time machine and travel many years into the future. What do you think you would find? And I guess I remember enjoying gaming a lot when I was a teenager, when I was a kid. And then I played fewer games because I grew up, right? And I guess it was kind of interesting to see how much had changed over the years when I came back and got into it years down the road. It just seemed like maybe you can go back to the same place where you had been before, but you can't go back to the same experience that you had before. And what people will say is they'll say it's nostalgia. It's that you're older and your imagination is different. Everything just hits different because you're in a different life stage than you were before. And that is true to a point. But is it true in the entirety, or is there something else going on? And I think there's something else in play here that is worth talking about. And it's not just gaming, it's movies, it's TV shows, it's so much stuff. I watched Resident Alien fairly recently, within the last few months, and I really enjoyed it. I love the characters. I love the small town vibe. It was just fun. And I realized I hadn't found a show that I thought was fun like that in a while. And, it's not like I can't get into something again. It's not like I can't enjoy a new game or be kind of swept off my feet by terrific design. Right now I'm playing Genshin Impact, and that's one of those rare exceptions to the rule where I remember when Genshin launched and I played it and I thought, my goodness, this world is just so beautiful. And it took me back to that experience of finding some game world for the first time and just feeling like I was taken to a different place. And I've continued to play Genshin casually, but I've continued to play it now for years because it's one of those few truly unique original IPs. There hasn't been anything like it before or after. There's been copycats that tried to capitalize off of that style, but nothing has ever been what Genshin is, because it managed to have an art style that was unique, a storyline that was unique, a world design that was impressive. And in a world where everything winds up being so much the same, so reused, it's really hard to come up with something that's unique, something that feels like it's inventive. And Genshin managed to do that, and I appreciated it a lot. I guess the point I'm getting at is that I don't feel like what I have to say here is necessarily universal. I'm not necessarily saying that every single game falls to this particular problem, or every single media that's produced is part of the problem. I think there's still amazing things that are being made, and once in a while I still find those things and they drag me in. So it's still possible. It's not just that I've gotten older and have absolutely no imagination. You know, the truth of the matter is, a lot of my sense of nostalgia is not from personal experience of playing an old game and then thinking, oh my goodness, you know, it's been so many years since I've played that game. I feel nostalgic about it because I'm remembering my positive experiences from before. I don't really have that nostalgia. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to RPGs or MMOs, I didn't play those when I was a teenager. I didn't play those really at any point until around, I would say, 3 years ago or so. I started to get into them for the first time in my life. Before that, I remember I played King's Quest adventure game back in the day, and I liked that. But I didn't really, you know, I'm not one of these people who has the nostalgic memories to fall back on, and I don't really miss the old days exactly. I remember I used to play a game called Empire Earth, and I really enjoyed playing that a lot. And on that topic, I was really impressed to see Age of Mythology Retold come out recently, and I thought that was an amazing launch of a classic game. And I've been getting into that game for the first time, thinking that that's pretty amazing. I love it. It's great. So you know, again, that's an example of a good IP launching a great game that's well received, and there are a few examples. But by and large, having gotten back into gaming in my 30s, having had time away from the industry, away from playing games all the time, working on other stuff, doing other things, and then I got back into it. I had the money and I had the time to, you know, to pick up the hobby again. And I just think it's interesting how, you know, what do I play? Like, I could play any game that I want to play. Like, there's no game in existence that I couldn't just play if I wanted to. But I wind up playing the same titles I go back to that I really enjoy. And they're simple titles, you know, like Elder Scrolls Online, which is a 10-year-old game. Lord of the Rings Online, which is probably, I don't even know, like maybe 17 years old now. It's a very, very old game at this point. Still supported, and more updates continue to be made, but it's still an old game. And the TV shows and the movies that I enjoy the most, I don't watch very many of them anymore. And the ones I do like a lot are mostly things that are older. There's just not a lot of new stuff that really captures my attention or imagination. And the more I think about it, the more it seems like this isn't just me. That's not just my perspective that's changing. It's that we lost something. And I don't know what it is exactly. But I think it has something to do with how technology has changed over the years to make everything easier. You know, CGI used to be very difficult to do because computing technology was limited. And game design was the exception to the rule, because a lot of pioneers had to innovate to create the technologies that would make it possible to create game engines. And today I think it's just a lot easier for a company to throw money at a project and make some kind of a garbage game, make some kind of garbage content, and they just spit it out easy. It's kind of like how you can go to some AI image generator and you don't have to even have any skill at all to produce some sort of a pretty good looking AI image. So if you can make something that looks almost like quality art by just entering a prompt into a search engine in a few seconds, well, you know, it's kind of like that in every aspect of the industry. Maybe they're not using AI, but they're still making all sorts of content that's just, maybe it looks good on a very superficial level, but it's not special. It's not unique. It's not imaginative. It doesn't tell stories that captivate us. It's not original. And there's just that feeling that everything has kind of gotten fake. And more, like, I don't even watch TV anymore. I don't watch movies anymore. I go to Amazon, I go to Netflix, I go to these sites and think, oh, maybe I'll find something to watch. And you know what I do? I wind up just scrolling through all of this stuff because I can't find anything that even looks interesting enough to give it a try. And then when I do find something that I think is really cool, it winds up being something that's been out for a while. And I really think that there's a deficiency in quality because it's gotten so easy to produce content. You know, everything feels fake, and so now it's just so much more meaningful, I guess, to just have authenticity. Maybe that's why most of my media that I consume, it winds up being YouTube. A lot of times I look at expensive productions I could watch, you know, some new movie that just came out, or I could watch some random YouTuber just talking about life, and I wind up watching the YouTuber because that person feels more genuine and feels more interesting than the AAA content that feels like it's somehow contrived. And maybe it's just something along the lines of, if everyone is special, then no one is special. And we don't want to do anything that is going to offend anybody. We don't want to do anything that is edgy or touchy or controversial. We just want to produce more content that's going to generate views. And, you know, it's like that junk food candy, you know? It's easy to eat it, and yet it just feels like garbage. And you don't really want to eat very much of it because you get sick of it after a while. That's kind of how media and entertainment starts to feel. Like somebody was saying in another video, and I thought really resonated with me. He was like, you know, they're screwing around making all of these, you know, like stupid spin-offs and stuff like Starfield that doesn't actually go anywhere. And you know, what did players want? Players wanted Elder Scrolls 6 years ago. And then years pass and there was no Elder Scrolls 6. There's just like other IPs that they came up with and spin-offs they came up with. And then what happened is, you know, years passed and a lot of the players who used to play those games moved on. And the youngest generation of gamers who are going to start playing games now don't even remember those games from the mid 2000s. You know, we're just, it's like you know, do you screw around so much that you then get to a point where you come back after a while, but what you left behind is just plain gone because you screwed around so long that there wasn't anything left when you return. I think that that's kind of what's happened. You look at all of the movies, and like they're kind of like they're woke movies. They're, you know, they're games with some kind of diversity, equity, inclusion agenda in there, and like you just feel like it's not quality content. It's stuff that's superficially sensationalist while not having any fun to deliver, not having anything new to offer, and you know, just seems like something is maybe wrong in the industry. Some of it, I'm sure, is just, you know, your perspectives change as time goes on, but my trajectory has been I've gotten more into gaming in the recent past than I've been before. I've paid more attention to it. I've thought more about what makes good game design. And increasingly, I feel like new stuff just doesn't really add anything new. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. There's so much copycat type stuff going on where everything's just a spin-off of something that used to be good, and there's not really anything actually good. It's just, I guess a lot of devs feel like, you know, if we don't have any fresh imagination, then let's at least just find something that people already are known to love, and then we can kind of ride the wave for one last hurrah. And then people get wise to it after a while. They get tired of it after a while. I don't know how we fix all of this, but I think there's something that just feels like there was this kind of, I guess, glory days in gaming, and then it got lost because everything became just a little bit corrupted, and it stopped being fun. And I think it has something to do with the fact that it's gotten easier than ever to have the form of something be there, to copy the look of something while not really having the spirit of it anymore. And then things just kind of become like a corpse that is still animated, and it's still going, it's still alive in a way, but spiritually it's been dead for a long time. Like, I remember I was watching The Walking Dead a while ago, and there was this scene in there where this guy, he was like the mayor of some little settlement, and there was his daughter, and she was dead, and she was a zombie, but he wasn't gonna accept that because he couldn't come to terms with the fact that his daughter was dead. So he had this dead little girl who was a zombie, and she was chained up in the bedroom, and he was feeding flesh to her and trying to hang on to the vestige of faith that somehow she wasn't dead, she was just sick. And it was this this creepy sort of experience to see this guy that just couldn't acknowledge the truth. He couldn't see what was obvious in front of him, that what had been beautiful and special was gone long ago. That's kind of how it feels when I think about all the things that strike me as amazing in media, entertainment, and gaming. I think there's a lot of amazing stuff out there going on, a lot of amazing titles. There's a lot of cool stuff. But by and large, there's more and more fakeness going on, where things just aren't as meaningful as they used to be. And it kind of feels like that's not even just media and entertainment, it's also things like human relationships too. Like everything's disposable, everything's so superficial. People don't want to commit to something long term and make the most of it. People don't want to have a sense of longevity. They don't want to have a sense of commitment to quality. They just want something that looks good, something that'll get some attention, something that'll get some likes, and then, you know, if you get the attention, does it really matter if you produce anything of quality? And when you compare that to the times in the past, when we look at amazing IPs and things, you know, you look at something like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the original trilogy, and I'm not really that much into hating on the Rings of Power. I think it's a cool show, though I also am not going to say that it doesn't deserve the criticism it's received. But I look at a show like Rings of Power, and let's be real, like there's zero comparison between Rings of Power and the Peter Jackson original trilogy. There just isn't. There was no comparison between the Star Wars new trilogy and the Star Wars original trilogy. And there's no comparison between the new Star Wars spin-offs that have been done, or the newer Star Trek spin-off shows that have been done, and the original classic shows. You know, there was a time when a sequel wound up being a step up, and now a sequel is just a step down, but riding on the momentum of the original IP. And live service has made this even worse. Like games, TV shows, where it's just so easy to put out content. It's so easy to publish things that are not completely thought out, things that are half-baked. You can release games in early access. You can do a quick cash grab and then continue to juice players with a cash shop. There's so many different things you can do now which you couldn't do back when games and stuff were purchased on discs in a physical store. And I think it just boils down to, you know, it's like, did we lose something when we went to social media and we stopped sending letters in the mail? In a way, we gained something, but in a way, we did lose something. You know, what happens when relationships are viewed as disposable, when you know, there's no need to really think about what you're going to say. You can just, you know, you can just unsubscribe whenever you get bored. Like, it's just, there's not any sense of accountability because you're not really trying to build a relationship. You're just trying to get a transaction. I don't know what the solution is, other than just to talk about it. I think it's interesting to realize that a lot of times these days, the best titles, the best shows, the best games, the best experiences, they're not the stuff you'd look at and say, this is the absolute best AAA title out there. The things that are meaningful and special, they wind up being things that you have come to know and treasure, that have been around for a long time, not necessarily the new thing on the block. And so maybe the lesson here, maybe the takeaway, is just that new isn't always better. Not all things that glitter are gold. And maybe sometimes if you love things that are from the past, if you love things that are already established or older things, or you struggle to find something new that resonates with you, maybe that's not just because you're old and out of touch. Maybe it's that there's actually a problem with quality that's manifesting itself in the world, because when you treat things that are, when you try to build permanent things with temporary materials, you wind up having a problem sooner or later. And the tendency, the way things are going, is the powers that be, developers, publishers, all sorts of folks who are trying to sell you something, they will tell you, if you don't like this, that's your problem. You are the problem. If you don't like this, then shame on you for not being inclusive enough, or not being with it, And instead of saying, we have to earn your respect and earn loyalty and earn the buy-in and do things that are going to generate interest, there's that smugness, that sense of, you better like this. And if you don't like it, well, we're not changing because you're the problem. Well, maybe the player isn't the problem. Maybe the customer isn't the problem. Maybe sometimes the genuine truth is just that if something doesn't seem fair, or it doesn't seem fun, or it doesn't seem interesting, the truth is that's because it's not. And our duty isn't to figure out how to have fun and enjoy unoriginal content and bad ideas. What we need to do is move on and don't give attention to things that don't actually add value into our lives. So for me, I guess what that means is I just kind of simplify my life. And I don't watch all that TV. I don't play all that many new games. I just kind of, I spend my time doing things I enjoy. It's just that simple. And if I do enjoy it, then I'm going to spend time doing it. And if I don't, then I'm not under any obligation to buy into something just because there's somebody trying to sell it. And certainly, I think we can all agree there's more things trying to be sold to us than probably it ever before. And, sometimes you got to just stop buying things that aren't lovely. Excuses are the norm. You have the tree that doesn't grow any figs on it, and somebody wants to say, well, it's just this season. It's gonna get better. Give it another few hundred hours, it'll get better. Really? Will it? Because maybe, you know, maybe a good tree is just supposed to bear good fruit. Crazy thought, I know, but, you know, like, think about Genshin Impact. You know, I've played that game. I enjoyed it from the very first time I signed into the game, you know? I haven't played it non-stop all the time, but I really enjoyed it right from the beginning. It's a special game. You know, I didn't have to put 200 hours into it to reach the conclusion that I enjoyed it, right? So, you know, think about stuff like the whole Concord fiasco that came out, you know. They'll say, well, you got to enjoy it. If you don't like it, then you're a bigot or something. Yeah, or maybe players just don't like stuff sometimes because it's not good. Maybe it's just that, you know? Maybe things start off in the right place, but then after a while, if you don't add new ideas and you betray the things that did work and sell them out, then, you know, things that started off really good aren't so good anymore. I don't know. Anyways, what do you think? Do you think that the best days of gaming are behind us? Do you think that something is broken in the world? Or do you think it's just our perspectives that change? Tell me your thoughts. Anyways, till next time. Thanks for watching.